any legislators in the House that want to join us, sit on this back row, they're more than welcome to do that. But if you'd rather just stay out there, then I understand. But that's up to you. Before we get started, a couple things. But one thing, since Dr. Heindl's here with us, I want to give him just an opportunity to say a word. I thank you for this opportunity to open your facilities up to us. But you want to say what?
Be happy to. Again, welcome to Northwest Mississippi Community College. On behalf of our students, our faculty, staff, and administration, we are so excited that you're here tonight. And we welcome our legislators. And you all have a tall task ahead of you. And so, Mr. Chairman, we are happy to host you, excited that you're here. Please let us know if we can do anything to help you in any way. We've got some staff dispersed throughout the room, and I'll be happy to help you in any way. Again, thank you so much for being here. Y'all may have noticed a construction project going on. That's where our instrumental, our vocal, and our music production and recording programs will move to on campus, and also there'll be a theater over there. So that's a little bit of the construction. We just finished a new residence hall on campus. Students are moving into it, and excited for the fall semester coming up. And so, quick plug, if you know anybody, tell them we're registering for the fall semester, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all being here.
Thank you, and I'm not coming back. All right. I appreciate y'all being here tonight, and we're going to go ahead. I've just got a couple things I want to cover before we get started. The Joint Committee holds public hearings to receive suggestions and recommendations on how the Mississippi Legislature should redistrict itself and its 4 congressional districts. During the course of a hearing, I will offer the members of the public an opportunity to give their comments to the committee or to give statements to the committee about our upcoming redistricting efforts. By custom, we try to give members of the public a free opportunity to say what they wish. In cases where it appears there are going to be many persons who are to speak, we limit their time, and we have a good crowd here tonight, so we are going to limit the time, and it's been customary in the past, have been limited to 5 minutes, so try to keep your remarks to that. At this time, as chairman, I want to call the public hearing of the Joint Reapportionment Committee, Joint Congressional Redistricting Committee to order, and ask our council to call the roll of the members present. Thank you, Council. I just want to remind each of you that although we call the roll, a quorum is not required because this is not a regular meeting, and we're calling the roll simply for the purpose of knowing who's present. We have approximately 20 members of this committee, and it is a diverse committee of both House, Senate members, Republicans, Democrats, African Americans, whites, male, female. So although the crowd here tonight might not reflect that, but I just wanted to point that out to you. I don't think we had any members arriving late, and so we'll dispense with that. Additionally, we do have some other legislators here that are here in the audience, and I want to thank them for coming. And and give them an opportunity to identify themselves. All right, excuse me, I believe that's all the members that are here. I want to thank our staff for all the work they've done to prepare for this meeting. These things don't just happen. Somebody has to plan and organize these things and get everything ready for us. And just again, I want to thank both our LBO and peer staff and the others involved in this process. At this time, I'd like to open up, and if any members of the committee have anything they would like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, thank you for being here, and we're here to listen and learn from you guys. Let me tell you, even though a lot of the House members and senators aren't here, they are in a sense that they're watching online. They've texted saying they are, and the lieutenant governor is the same. So I'd like to also thank those other than members of this committee that are members of the House and Senate for being here. I especially appreciate Neil Whaley for being here, who just tested negative. He's been very, very sick, and we're very glad to see you, Neil. So thank you for being here.
All right. Is there any other member of the committee? All right. Well, thank you. I would like to start out by saying that in preparation for this meeting, our staff has gone through the transcripts of the prior hearings that we had, including the hearings done in 2010. And from their review, there have been certain questions and certain things that have been asked repeatedly. So I'm going to try to answer some of those things now in hopes that it might provide a little clarity to some of the people that are here and just might answer some of the questions without someone having to go over it. And a few of the things are, why do we redistrict? And said, need to point out that both our federal constitutional requirements of one person, one vote require us to redistrict both congressional districts and legislative districts every 10 years following the census. Additionally, Section 254 of the Constitution of 1890 requires that we redistrict the legislature. So we are here tonight starting this redistricting process because we're required to. And the next thing, when will we actually commence this redistricting? I just want to make the public known that we started this process actually just recently. This committee was formed. We've hired some counsel, and this is the third in a series of 9 public hearings that we'll have across the state. And so the process is started because of that. We're going to, because of qualifying deadlines next year, our efforts at congressional redistricting will come first and will occur during the fall of the year. And then we will be working on the legislature during the months of the 2022 legislative session. So it's now upon us to get started. One other thing is, because the population shifts, we will face challenges. I mean, that's just a common theme with every redistricting. There's always movements of population, and I know that you're all very well aware in the news. There's been basically, we have the same population we had 10 years ago. But the only problem with that is it's moved a lot. We have a few counties that have gained a lot of population. We have a few counties that lost a lot of population. We have a lot of counties that lost a little bit of population and a few that gained some. So there's been a great deal of movement around the state. Both situations face challenges. We have places like the Meridian that we've already been to and a few other areas of the state that every county lost population. So that's one set of problems that you have. Then we have areas like this area and like the area on the coast where you have some counties that have gained a lot of population. Although here, if you take a pretty broad picture of it, you can see from the maps around that some gained, some lost. And I want to encourage you to take a look at the maps that are around, and it will give you an idea of both congressional, Senate, and House districts and and the population changes in each one of them. The exhibit also shows the ideal population sizes for a House district. The ideal size is 24,273. Now, we have some tolerance, and we can go up and down on that 5%. For a Senate district, it's 56,984. The same thing, we have some tolerance. But one thing I want to point out for our congressional districts, we have 4 of them, and they basically have to be the same size. That tolerance is like a 1-vote tolerance if we have to not make them even. So we're practically making 4 districts the same size, and that's going to require. You might ask, why did you split a county? Like Oktibbeha was split last time, and Wayne was split. But you're just not going to be able to avoid that and meet the requirements that are set out. So there will be challenges because of the shifting. Another thing is, why are we presenting census estimates at this hearing? Because of the delays in producing the census data. I think when this process started, we were hoping maybe April 15th it was the original date that we were supposed to receive this information. But the actual numbers we use in redistricting are not yet available. And there's only so long we can wait till we start the process. The first set of data will be available hopefully Friday in mid-August, with the final official delivery occurring close to September. These census estimates give us a good indication of where our challenges are and have been used in the past hearings to assist the public in understanding the issues faced in redistricting. Primarily, they're pretty close on the county numbers. And so you get a good idea of what counties have grown. What we don't have yet are precinct by precinct data. I might not be able to tell you what part of the county grew, and they're not numbers that we can use to draw the maps from yet, but they're numbers for you to know that if you live in the Meridian area, that we're probably going to have larger districts. Or if you live in DeSoto County, you're probably going to have smaller districts. Or you might even possibility in that area having more representation totally. But it's just enough to go ahead and get started, and so that's why we're using the estimates, because that's the best information we have. And you ask how many members of the public participate in the process, and there are several ways that members of the public can participate in this process. One is by discussing their concerns at this meeting. The comments that you might have at this meeting is a way of participating. So we're here to hear your concerns. This evening we will listen to any matter that you wish to bring to our attention about how and where we will draw congressional and legislative districts. Now, I know that it's tempting for some people to get off on other subjects about different things involved in the legislative process or election process, but our role is simply to draw the districts. And so if you can keep your comments to that, it would be appreciated. Let members of the public know that they must sign a card with their name so the committee can call on them. A card like this that they were given, and if anyone needs one, if they'll just let the staff know, they'll be glad to do that. And you can submit your suggestions to the committee in writing or by email, or you can take advantage of the opportunity to use the committee's public access computer terminals. Once we get all the information in, there will be a time that the public can access the computer terminals in Jackson's redistricting office. And in a hearing, what kinds of concerns does the committee need to hear from the public? And that's basically any concerns that you have. The things that are on your mind is a simple answer. In the past, we've heard people talk about Voting Rights Act issues, splitting of precincts, splitting of municipalities. I've already heard a comment about that today, talking about when Hernando was split 20 years ago. It might be that districts that are odd-shaped. Some of that cannot be avoided when you comply with the other requirements that we have. But those are types of concerns. In short, we've heard most of the things that people are going to talk about, but you're free to bring that up. Just a reminder that the rules of the House govern joint committees, and we will handle such matters as the House would handle them. And I'm going to give this address, although I know that the address is on the material that you've gotten, but please remember that if some things kind of feel redundant or odd, it's because we are broadcasting this, and everybody didn't have access to the written material that you have. So I'm going to try to slowly give the address on certain things, but if you have the questions or comments, you can send them to Ted Booth, Staff Council, Joint Reapportionment Committee, P.O. Box 1204, Jackson, Mississippi 39215, 1204, or you can send an email to ted.booth@peer, that's PEER, .ms.gov. And like I say, that information is on some of the information that was handed out, and if you need the address, the staff will be happy to give you that address when the hearing is over. Before I call on the public, does anyone have anything else they would like to add? Pierre. All right. Well, I want to thank you again for doing that, and I'm going to call these in the order that I received them. And Gail Lyons, if you would please come to the podium, and there again, that's more for the people who aren't here that are watching this benefit than it is for our benefit.
First shall be last, and the last shall be first. Thank you. I'm here representing Jago, Mississippi. Can you hear me? I'm here representing Jago, Mississippi, and we're requesting today that you draw the lines to represent Jago as a separate community. Let me tell you a little bit about Jago. My name is Gail Baptist Lyons, and I was born, raised, and I live in Jago. Jago is a community of interest, and I'm here with a group of residents from Jago. Some have made it, but they are present. And we would like to hold our community together. If you're traveling down Church Road to Swinney in South Haven, Mississippi, you'll see Jago. Free slaves bought the land in 1890 as a quest to become self-sufficient. And we're still self-sufficient. We have the educational backgrounds. We still own property in. A lot of the ancestors are still living on those properties. But our resources are limited. In creating that township that we had once before. We had a general store, a postmaster, we owned our cotton gin. We were a self-sufficient township, and we would like to regain that. We would like for you to draw those lines that represent Jago, Mississippi, a self-sufficient community. Now, I know you may be wondering how I want you to go about that, but I'll present that map to you. I don't want to stay over my 5 minutes because this will go on and on, but I will send that map to you. I have that address, and I'll send you other documents that will enable you to make your final decision to create Jago community as a separate district where we have our own representatives and senators to come out. We prefer that. And I think that we deserve that. And I will send you the information. Do you have any questions for me about Jago? This is Jago, South Haven. Thank you.
Look forward to getting that information. All right, next, Ms. Isom.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Theresa Gillespie Isom, and I'm a resident of Desoto County. And I do have a folder I'd like to get to you. And I live in Desoto County. I've lived there for 16 years. I'm a resident of Olive Branch, Mississippi, and I've lived in Olive Branch for 15 years. I'm here today because the unfair map for House District 7 and for Ward 2 in Olive Branch. The maps that are currently being used have helped to encourage and provide voter suppression. During my residency, there has not been a Democrat elected to any office in Olive Branch during my 16 years as a resident. My issue is that the map for House District 6 and District 7 appear to have been drawn to dilute the Democratic vote. Areas like North Pleasant Hill have been split to be in part of each district. Also, part of DeSoto Central is included in District 7, and the same for Mineral Wells. The precincts are split. I ran for state representative, and it was important because I felt like I could help in the community in which I live. But it was impossible to win the race because of the splitting of the precincts. I again tried for a position in the municipal race in Olive Branch, and again I found that the ward had been drawn to elect the same person that was already the candidate in office. Right in the middle of the ward is a whole section that has been removed and placed into another ward. It is very obvious the process of political cracking was put in place and implemented in DeSoto County to dilute the votes and therefore cause the voter suppression. This process is also preventing the constituents in these districts and wards from being elected and from them electing their preferred candidates of choice. I have brought a copy of the maps, and it's there within the folder. A complete subdivision has been removed that is in the center of Ward 2, and an area that is 5 miles away was included in Ward 2 when you have one that was right across the street. This is so unfair. I am the HOA president in my neighborhood, and people from other HOAs and neighborhoods, they come to me about issues that affect our community and ask for my assistance in helping to resolve them. It is important that all citizens have a voice and that people feel that their voice is going to be heard. Like I mentioned earlier, I have lived in DeSoto County for 16 years and Olive Branch for 15. I can say that we have not had a town hall meeting that has been open to everyone so that the issues that the citizens have can be heard and discussed. The voices of everyone should matter. I am a community advocate and a volunteer for many organizations in DeSoto County to help our community. And I am requesting that fairly drawn lines be drawn for DeSoto County. Fairly drawn maps will allow DeSoto County to be a community for all of the people, especially in Olive Branch and South Haven. District 7 had 3,551 residents in 2010, and more people have moved into the district since that time. If nothing changes, the people will become more despondent and will stop exercising their right to vote. I am asking that you will review the maps for District 7 and for Ward 2 and all the other districts and wards in DeSoto County, and make sure that all the people have a fair chance to have representation in DeSoto County. I'm also asking that we will be allowed to review the maps before they are finalized. And thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Ms. Marilyn Young.
Good afternoon. First of all, thank you kindly for allowing us an opportunity to speak. My name is Marilyn Young. I'm a lifelong resident of Tunica County, and I work in several of the other counties around the Mississippi Delta, and I stand before you to speak on behalf of the Mississippi Education Organizing Alliance. We've been working with this redistricting process for probably about 25 years now, and so there are some things that we're very concerned about given what happened in the last redistricting process. One of the first things I want to ask is that the last time the plans were drawn, the community did not get an opportunity to view, see, or analyze them before official vote was taken by the legislator. We are asking you, once these maps are drawn, will you please allow public hearings to be called so that people can get an opportunity to review the maps, analyze them, and see what. And part of the reason for that, we want to ask you all not to rack up on additional seats just because you can, because we understand that the Republicans are in charge of this process, and so we want to make sure that doesn't happen. In the last process, there were districts drawn to make sure it wiped out almost every white Democrat that was in the state of Mississippi, and we want to make sure that does not happen this time. And so as part of the redistricting principles that I would like to ask you all to please adhere to, we ask that the districts are composed and very contiguous. We ask that the districts be compact. We ask that the districts plan to avoid political racial gerrymandering. We ask that the redistricting plan avoid a political gerrymandering. We want to make sure everybody's voice is heard. We want to ask that a redistricting plan would not have the effect and the purpose of effective or diluting minority voting strengths, and shall otherwise comply with Section 5 and Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the 14th and 15th Amendment of the Constitution. This plan should avoid drawing districts that are odd shapes. We ask that boundaries should not cross government and political boundaries at least more than one time. We don't want precincts broken up and one side of a street is in one district, the other side of the street in another one. It just causes so much confusion at the voting place. The redistricting plan should be drafted such that the districts and boundaries are run along major roads, streams, natural and visible boundaries. We ask that the redistricting plan reserves the long-standing tradition of communities of interest. We would like to see these plans so we can make sure that some of these redistricting principles are adhered to. We also are asking and a plea to please see the plans, given that the census data has not been released. We're asking for you all to come back with public hearings after you all have drawn the plan so we can review, analyze, and look at the plans also, because we know ultimately you all are the ones that have the final authority in the vote of the plans. But we ask that you do it fairly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. James Woodard.
Good evening. How you doing this evening?
Fine, thank you.
All right. I'm James Woodard, a resident of DeSoto County in District 2, and live in Olive Branch in Ward 1. And there are no African Americans represented in DeSoto County, in Olive Branch and South Haven. I understand that the representatives are 7, and there's 1, Ms. Hester. The state Senate, there's 3 and there's 0, and that the population has grown. And I'm just here to ask you guys to consider redistricting your plan to give the African Americans a chance to get to be represented. Representation is very important. If we look at the Board of Supervisors in DeSoto County, 0, there's no African American there, and there's no opportunity to be elected. I ran in 2019 and was defeated, was swallowed up. In DeSoto County, also the Chancery Clerk, Circuit Clerk, Tax Assessors, Justice Court Clerks, Constables. We don't have any African Americans represented there. School Board, the county school boards, our children are going to school. Gentlemen, it's taxation without representation. That's what it is. We're just asking you to consider that and be fair, because I would like to think everybody is fair, and there should be some fairness there. And I understand that you guys that you gentlemen, legislatures are Senate and legislature, but we want to get on record that Olive Branch in the city, South Haven in the city, and DeSoto County, it needs to be some consideration there. We're paying taxes, equal taxes, just like everybody else, and everybody else is making decisions with the money that we pay. We're paying the money, and they're making all the decisions. We have no representation. I was a part of 1980. I'm going to try to do this real fast. In 1980, I was part of a redistricting plan in Webster County, Mississippi, where we went to court, federal court in Oxford, and the judge ordered the city to, they were voting at large, and 75 to 25, and we had no chance of winning. So at that time, the judge ruled that they have a district drawn to giving the African Americans a chance, a majority district. So after that, we went on to the county, same thing in the county. So I served 16 years between the two of them because of redistricting, and we worked fine. And since I've been gone, that was up to 2000. I've been gone from there about 20 years, and those people are still in office down there, and they're working fine together. The African Americans are on the board. In the city, there's 2 African Americans there in the city, and in the county level, a county supervisor there, and in the school system. I have a good friend who got elected there. He's the chairman of the board. He's the only African American on the board. So we can do those things. We can do this, but it needs to be fair. You all need to consider this, especially in DeSoto County with the population growth. We need to consider those lines. We're asking y'all if y'all would do that. It's oppression to be taxed and don't have representation. It's oppression. That's exactly what it is. Tyranny. I'm going to give you the definition of tyranny. It's a cruel and oppressive government. I know you all know that. It's wrong. Now here's what the good Lord said about that. He said, anyone whom oppresses the poor or the weak shows contempt for their master. You're oppressed. And being the minority does make you weaker. I know you all agree with that. So we're just asking you all to consider that when you are drawing the lines. And I understand that you all are not within the city or the county level. So, but we still wanted to get it on record. And I thank you all for listening to me, and hope y'all will consider. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Kerr? Okay.
Greetings, Mr. Chairman. Greetings, Mississippi Joint Legislative Redistricting Committee. My name is Chalendra Kerr. I live at 8670 DeHart Drive, Olive Branch, Mississippi, 38654. I've been a resident of DeSoto County, recently annexed into the city of Olive Branch at Estates of Southern Trails for 9 years. I'm here with a group representing one voice and the voters of the city of Olive Branch. I'm a Gulf War veteran, U.S. Navy, and a former chair in the DeSoto County, who was responsible for hiring, training, and assigning poll workers and watchers within the county. I have committed much time and service to make sure our electoral practices within DeSoto County are fair and equitable. I have attempted to build lasting relationships and partnerships within the DeSoto County Election Commission during 2015 and currently. I would like the Mississippi Joint Legislative Redistricting Committee to adhere to the Voting Rights Act by ensuring that minority voting strength will not be unreasonably compromised and all efforts to avoid partisan gerrymandering will be applied. Two provisions of the Voting Rights Act, Section 222 and Section 523, prohibit the use of voting practices or procedures, including redistricting plans that dilute minority voting strength. In a series of cases in the 1960s, one of which was coined the phrase, "one person, one vote," the Supreme Court held that the 14th Amendment guaranteed equality of voting power and that the electoral systems in states which failed to allocate voting power on the basis of population were unconstitutional. Money Magazine rated Olive Branch as one of the most attractive and fastest growing suburbs in Mississippi and in the United States, with a growth rate of over 17% compared to other cities in Mississippi at a growth rate of 4%. Our voting strength has doubled since the last election. Our school district is #1 in the state. Our population surge in northern Mississippi has indicated where we once were ignored, one of the strongest swing votes within the state. So what is my concern then if we're growing at that rate? There's a disproportionate amount of race and party within local elected officials, which affects hiring practices, where the elected officials disproportionately hire their family and friends. The vendor process to get qualified as a contractor is also overlooked and underreported publicly. Those unfair influences increase voter and poll worker apathy. Everyone is looking at the numbers here in DeSoto County. We know that. We know our issue is not poverty or the lack of resources, but drawing the redistricting lines where total deviations are more than 10%, we're at risk of lawsuit if we do not draw those lines fairly. Prior to May 28th, 2021, as a county resident, two distinct newly built areas, I live in one of those areas, homes larger than 3,500 square feet were annexed into Olive Branch. Residents were assigned to DeSoto Supervisor District 5, physically located in Hernando, over 30 minutes away from my home, which has been an inconvenience over the past 9 years and presents similar issues for other unincorporated areas. I recall the most recent June 8th election. The recent annexation was unfairly implemented May 28th, less than 30 days prior to the local mayoral and alderman races, which happened on June 8th. The current voting statute requires residency to be established no less than 30 days before an election, which disqualified my vote and my voice, and did not permit me to run for an elected position. Now that you have my tax money, DeSoto County, Olive Branch, What do I want? If a community is annexed, there should be an exception to the residency requirement. I've already lived there for 9 years, and now you tell me I don't live in the city. But I'm paying utilities, I'm paying taxes, and you tax me unfairly, and I can't vote. We should allow voters who have been taxed immediately to vote immediately. If not, the voter would have a tax liability without being properly represented. We call that taxation without representation. I called to the Mississippi State Secretary of State, asked the State Attorney General's office for an official answer on this subject. Lastly, constituents should be able to vote within the area where we live, work, learn, and play. I am asking you, sirs and ma'am, would you please consider? I'm asking for a fair amount of time between the annexing calendar and our election voting calendar. Again, thank you for your service to these communities, to the state of Mississippi, and I ask that you would humbly hear my ask. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. West.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for allowing us an opportunity to share a few thoughts. I'm coming from a little different vein, so please hear my heart. My name is Lovey West, and I'm a resident of Desoto County, the city of Olive Branch, to be specific. Upon my retirement in 2016, I returned to my home state of Mississippi. To my surprise, I found Mississippi ranking near the bottom of all of the issues that impact the lives of the poor, people of color, and women and children. I was reared in Holmes County, Mississippi, and experienced firsthand the disparities that occurred due to the lack of fair representation in the political process. I experienced educational policies such as separate but equal that only adhere to the separate part. Our textbooks were outdated with pages missing, and the list goes on and on. It all started with the redistricting process, with the absence of those parties affected. When I look at the poorest communities or the poorest municipalities in DeSoto County, Walls and Horn Lake, unfortunately, I see the same disparities that I saw as a child growing up. The elementary schools are in substandard condition compared to the other schools in DeSoto County. And yet these students are expected to compete with students in testing, college preparation, employment, and again, the list goes on. Women, people of color, and persons with disabilities are excluded from the redistricting process. And this continues to ensure mistrust in this political system, resulting in low turnout at the polls. Issues such as housing, education, equal pay, birth control, and abortion are women and children issues. And a decision on drawing the redistricting lines should be done by representation of those that are impacted. Although I personally do not believe in abortions, I do believe that women have the right and are capable of making decisions about their own bodies. Here is a list of insane laws in Mississippi and throughout the country that I believe have occurred because we have not been privileged to the process. A law against abortion, while the political forces vote against health care in Mississippi, vote against housing, vote against education. Laws prohibiting equal access to vote, while the system taxes us, the poor, the middle income, and yet the wealthy pay little to no taxes. Refusing federal dollars for health care while ranking 50th in health care in the state. And I just want to share personally, I lived in Arizona and retired in Arizona, and I have Humana. I pay 0 premium. When I moved to Mississippi, I was stunned that I had to pay a fee. I thought they had my health care mixed up. So why would you refuse tax dollars from the federal government and yet charge me, the poor person, on a fixed income to pay a premium? All of this starts with the redistricting, where people are not allowed the opportunity to have access to the system. Refusing to support the infrastructure bill while ranking 48th in infrastructure and 49th in the economy. Let me be clear. We want a seat at the table, meaning that we want a redistricting process that allows representation from all groups of society to be in the room when the lines are drawn, not just the politicians making decisions for us. Human nature allows you to defend your decisions by having these public forums. These scraps at the political process is not enough. How would you like it if someone was making decisions about you, your family, your generations, but yet you're not there to express your needs and your concerns? The decisions are being made for you. Mississippi is the 3rd blackest state in America. Yet our ability to have a fair redistricting process and a fair voting system is still beyond our reach. When you're in the room drawing the lines for redistricting, look around the room and ask yourself this question: who in my midst are representing the poor, women and children, people of color, and the disabled? Maya Angelou once said, when we know better, we do better. You know better, because we have reminded you. Now we ask you to do better. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I hope the things that we've shared today will prick your hearts when you're making those decisions.
Thank you. Next, we have Adam Connor.
Hi, how are y'all? I'm Adam Connor. I live here in Senatobia. I don't have a speech or anything planned, but I do have questions for y'all. So you said this is a 20-member committee, a very diverse committee. What's up with everyone being gone? Why are only 6 of you here?
We're here to take comments from the public, but I'll be glad to answer that. It's voluntary. They're from all over the state. We have 9 of these in different parts of the state, and they're going to the ones more than likely that are closer to them. Some of these individuals drove a long ways, some didn't. But this is not the only opportunity they're going to have. Some are viewing it on the camera. There's a record being taken. It's being recorded and being transcribed. So this is not the only chance they have to hear what people have to say.
I do understand that you all have a couple more meetings lined up, but the fact that not all 20 of you all are here listening makes it seem like listening to voters is voluntary. I mean, even if this isn't the district for 12 other representatives and senators, they should still be here. So anyways, a couple more questions. How are you all going to work to reduce the occurrence of gerrymandering, where you split up a district into a bunch of weird shapes that make no sense instead of concentrating the district together? Shrug.
This committee, with the advice of council, will follow the Voting Rights Act, and we will We will draw the districts according to the requirements of the act.
So as much gerrymandering as
well,
is legally allowed?
No, as little as you have to have one man, one vote. And the other requirements of communities of interest and all the different requirements. That's not, gerrymandering is not the only requirement. It's just one of the requirements.
I don't think gerrymandering should be a requirement, though. I mean, I would
It just
think
might be the result of complying with the other requirements. It's not a requirement.
there aren't other results where you can avoid having, you know, people 30 miles or 30 minutes from their representative?
Well, I'm not here to debate you about this, but look, my first district was 95 miles. I live in a rural area. To get enough people, sometimes you have to do that. There are legitimate reasons for districts being large. Some districts are very small. Some of us have compact districts. Some have very large districts. But
Okay. So
Let me make a comment real quick.
Yes.
This is, for the record, this is my first time to serve on this committee, so this is all new to me. But do you understand what the process is about trying to fit? You have
yes,
areas
I
of the
graduated
state.
with a degree in political science and just finished a thesis on Mississippi's
That's-
population loss. I understand.
I'm not trying to be I'm just saying, do you realize where you have areas, for instance, with Lauderdale County, went to Lauderdale County the other day, 12 counties in that area all lost population. Every representative and every senator there, his district is going to get bigger because they have to get population. So when you do that, you're going to start squeezing areas. Do you know where people live that are currently in these areas? So you're trying to figure out how to, not only if you have minority districts that you're not trying to collapse, you have to squeeze them in and morph their district out to go and grab population. If you have two representatives over here in this big block that's red, and you have a couple of senators that are sitting there in this area, how are you going to draw their districts where you go and grab population, but you can't keep a tight, compact, square, circle, whatever you want? You've got to go out and get population in different parts of the state, in different parts of this area over here. So you're not trying to collapse a minority district, but you're trying to grow their district so they can get population to fit the requirements.
Except in Jackson, which is what, 3 districts now?
In the Senate?
Oh, for the state.
What are you referring to? The Senate districts or
Oh,
the House
Jackson
districts?
is always split up into multiple districts.
Yeah, because they have, what, 200,000?
No, even at the federal level, it's always split up to dilute the vote.
The congressional districts are...
Yes.
Well, how would you like to draw it?
Well, I mean, a city should be 1 district, or as many
Well, it
districts
depends on how you lay the districts out. I mean, if you have a district that you're going from North Mississippi down, at some point you're going to cut off.
Yeah, but I mean, North Jackson shouldn't be in a separate district from South Jackson just because the demographics change. But anyways, so given our redistricting process is governed by our current state constitution, the Constitution of 1890, which, if anyone didn't know, provided the legal foundation for Jim Crow, I think it's important to ask, how are you all using race in the redistricting process? But we have minority-majority districts, so clearly you do. So you use voting history.
You can use voting history.
So you're just using voting history to determine what districts we're all going to be in? That's all it is? I voted for the wrong party. Sorry, I'm stuck with the shit representative.
Enough comments. If you have a comment, you can make a comment. We can talk to you, I'll talk to you about questions afterwards.
Okay.
And I believe it is it David Oles? Okay.
Thank you. My name is David Oles, and I am the chairman of the Desoto County Democratic Party. I want to thank the Mississippi Joint Redistricting Committee for their work and their dedication to holding these 9 meetings and allowing voters an opportunity to be engaged in this process. I have been a resident of DeSoto County since 1972, and lived in Supervisor District 5, the Lewisburg area, since 1985. I was in Lewisburg before I could say, I live in Lewisburg. I was always I'm between Hernando and Olive Branch, but now I proudly say I live in Lewisburg. I was not part of the recent annexation, but will probably be annexed the next time. I've seen a lot of changes, and a lot of those changes in Lewisburg has been very positive. I'm also happy to say that we have a diverse community in Lewisburg. The Lewisburg area has a top-rated school district in the county, and some would argue in the state. Lewisburg exploded with population growth, beautiful schools, and beautiful affordable residential areas. So much that the city of Olive Branch wanted our tax dollars without offering representation in return. And me and Ms. Kerr did not confer on our presentations. The annexed area was not within the 30-day window, so voters in the newly annexed area were not entitled to vote in the recent municipal election, much to the dismay and ire of many voters. The residents of Lewisburg want to be represented by the people in our community. We are a strong bonded community who share the same values. We wanted to be in the county, and for some that was taken away. The Lewisburg community is not Hernando. Due to the I-69, most do not travel by Hellier Road anymore. On the county level, the Lewisburg community has been ignored, misrepresented, taken for granted by county supervisors and representatives based out of Hernando. Voters in Lewisburg they shop in Olive Branch and mostly worship in Olive Branch and have the bond with Olive Branch, not Hernando. I and many others would like to see the Lewisburg area aligned with Olive Branch. We feel with the recent upcoming annexation, it would be a better fit for us to get the representation that we want and that we deserve. It is important that members of the Lewisburg community be heard and be involved in the redistricting process so that our voices will be represented. It is imperative, that all voices be heard. Your committee has a daunting task. It is our hope and it is our expectation that the Mississippi Joint Redistricting Committee will listen, understand, appreciate, and base your decision on all of the input that you hear tonight. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next is Pam, is it Hamner? Okay.
Good afternoon, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here to listen to us and enlighten us on this process. Let me appeal to the consciousness of many silent, responsible citizens of the white community who know that a victory for democracy in Jackson will be a victory for democracy everywhere. Medgar Evers. Until we are all free, nobody is free. Fannie Lou Hamer. Never think you've seen the last of anything. Eudora Welty. Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Eudora Welty. Three Mississippians whose legacies remain relevant on the landscape of our political, social, and economic foundation. Land once owned by the Choctaw Nation of the indigenous. This same land now houses the 82 counties, and many still have the Native American names like Neshoba, Kahoma, Panola, which is Choctaw for cotton. Yet the representation of one person, one vote guaranteed by the United States Constitution is not adequately affected in the diversity of the people that live in the Magnolia State. I've lived in Desoto County, Mississippi for the last 23 years, and the population has remained under 3 million people for a land mass of more than 50,000 square miles. Our young people are leaving because they don't see a future in Mississippi. My name is Pam Mckelvie Hamner, for the record. I live at 5225 Windy Ridge Drive in South Haven, Mississippi, Ward 6, a municipal district that is disproportionately packed with a higher population of voters, which more than doubles the number of folks in all the other 5 wards in the city combined. And I have a map that I inadvertently left in my seat that I'm going to present to you all when I'm done, and for your reflection, please, and thank you. And thank you to you, thank you, 20 members of this bipartisan legislative committee, including Hob Bryan of Armory, who was quoted in the Clarion Ledger on last week stating that this public hearing process is about providing context to what our communities look like. Despite Mississippi losing population, we know that DeSoto County gained nearly 15% in families. Many of those families are diverse and add to the voting base. Yet in the 41-year history of South Haven, an African American has never garnered enough votes to even win an alderman position in Ward 6, which is where I ran for alderman this past June. Historically, this position has been uncontested until 2013. That was the first time the Republican incumbent had any opposition, and he won with just under over 400 votes. And this past June in 2021, 2 of the alderman positions in South Haven went uncontested, Ward 2 and Ward 4, which guaranteed a Republican an uncontested position, representation without any opposition. It is my belief that the lines drawn for those wards favor Republicans winning, where minorities are packed and stacked in districts to dilute their voting power, where one person, one vote is not effective. This past June, my Republican opponent openly campaigned for the first time. I have lived in DeSoto County 23 years and paid taxes. This is the first, and he lives in my ward. The first time he campaigned. Using his party's resources with rallies held on city property, the Republican-controlled base turned out just over 800 votes. The turnout, however, represents less than 10% of the city's registered voters, yet those voters are precisely centered in Ward 6 and spread out over the large mass of South Haven to propel the Republican Party to an almost guaranteed victory. Ward 6 is almost impossible to win if you are not an established Republican. It is designed to include wealthier constituents bordered by Church Road and Getwell, to include Nesbit, which is 5 miles down the road, but to exclude Sweeney, which is historically Jago, that Gail Lyons talked about, an established minority community along Church Road. South Haven is 30% minority, yet all of the voters are deloaded so that none of the 6 wards have any collective minority representation. The map itself is evidence of a city with a third of its citizens never being able to have people to represent their interests. The process should be transparent. Citizens should be informed on how it's being designed, and the process should be made for all people of Mississippi to attend. I appreciate you all doing this. This is the first time it's ever happened in Mississippi from my records. But this should be not a voluntary thing. This is a part of who you all are in representing us. We are the people. All of us the government belongs to all of us. We expect the Republican-controlled legislature of the Magnolia State to live up to the creed of the state constitution and the oath to take to represent all citizens of Mississippi, regardless of their political affiliation, their race, their creed, their sexuality. The right of one man and one vote should not be limited to those who are in power. The government belongs to all of us. Mississippi's history with its clandestine politics has routinely disenfranchised black people, Mississippi, which stood for states' rights, i.e. slavery during the Civil War, recently adopted a new state flag with the words, as quoted by Governor Phil Bryant, the former governor, said, "It must say, 'In God we trust.'" However, without the support of the federal government, Christian values are not a part of how the congressional lines are drawn in this state. It is time for those who say they love God to love their fellow citizens. Without the courts overseeing the process, how can God-loving Mississippians be assured the lines will be drawn with fairness, accuracy, and that the districts are equitable without partisan plays? I thank all of you again for your transparency in this process and for your commitment to hear from Mississippians across the state. In conclusion, I have questions that I hope you can answer. How do we find out about local meetings on redistricting following positions for mayor, for alderman races, for school board, for supervisors, for judges? What are the laws regarding public information and accountability? If you cannot answer the questions, please tell me who I can ask and how to find out. Because we need to be able to hold people accountable based on the information that we are given. Thank you all again for your time, and God bless Mississippi, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you. I should have. All right. All right, Ms. Lynn Black.
Good evening. Wow. Listening to the people that have come before me. I live in Tupelo, Mississippi, and I moved here from Chicago. As a kid, I always loved to come to the South because I thought people in the South were loving, warm, hospitable people. And I went to college here, Alcorn State University. Then I left and traveled the world and came back and started a business here because I looked at the children that are coming up, and most of the children that I have encountered in Tupelo and in Macomb, Mississippi, have not been out of their area. I just got a little concerned because in the redistricting and trying to line everything up, it is important to have fair redistricting for women, for the economic security throughout the state of Mississippi. And the reason why I'm saying that is the majority of our young children that we are servicing here in child care and education come from single parent homes. And these are young ladies that are below the poverty level. These children will never get the opportunity to travel outside of their county, outside of their city. And I just recently dealt with some children that I took to Memphis, to the zoo, that had never been out of that area. If we don't come together and have some type of common ground, those are our future leaders of tomorrow. So what are we portraying to them? That is it okay for children to stay where they are? Their mindset will always be tunnel vision. But getting to my point, one of the things that we are, and I'm with the Mississippi Black Women Roundtable, so we are just trying to just get things out to let you know that black women make up a large percentage of the voters throughout the state. Based on the census data of 2021, wage gap between black women and non-Hispanic white women and men was 0.6, which is 63 cents. Black women are largely unrepresented in holding elected offices in the state. 49% of the Mississippi women make up about 49% of overall workforce, yet make up nearly 2/3 of the workers being paid minimum wage. I can attest to that as a business owner. Black women are the largest group of women working in low-wage jobs. We believe that fair redistricting lines would help reduce the wage gap brought about black women being underpaid. Black women in the rural districts of the state of Mississippi are more commonly single parents and heads of households, resulting in higher need to access quality education and health care. It is important to have fair redistricting to help women's economic security throughout the state of Mississippi. Without proper redistricting, wage gaps, access to better health care, and adequate education would not be possible. We urge for fair and transparent redistricting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Jerry Pope.
Good evening. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for serving the state of Mississippi, and thank y'all for being present. I'm going to keep my comments brief. I do have some questions. How many legislatures are on the committee total? 20? How many House members? 10 and 10. Okay. With that number, approximately how many counties are represented? That may be a hard question. Yeah. Okay. It's quite a few. I've done a little research because the chairman, he represents 4, and then I don't know some of the others how many counties you represent. But just for the record, maybe you can come up with how many counties are represented. I know Desoto County is represented pretty well. What other functions does this joint committee have beside the redistricting? Okay. So basically what we should be doing as a public, trying to find out more about the process that we will be undertaking, since at this time we do not have the absolute numbers in order to even set the congressional district, much less the legislative districts. And once the legislative districts are done, then the counties, is that true? The counties then do the redistricting per county as far as their supervisors.
The counties will not legislate.
Okay. What about judgeships?
Will not change.
Judgeships don't change? Okay. It has been said multiple times that will not that there will be counties split in the legislative and maybe congressional, and also maybe some split precincts. Will there be any effort by the committee to eliminate the split county or the split precinct as much as possible?
Well, I can answer that. I think to speak for everyone that we will split as few counties as possible, but counties will be split. You can tell from the maps there are a lot of counties that have to be split because of the population. The precincts that our goal is to split basically none. But what the public needs to understand is once we draw our districts, the counties will then move. They will draw their districts. And some of the things that we have not split the precinct, then they will change the precinct boundaries after we've already drawn the map, and there's not much we can do about that. So there will be some split precincts. But we're not going to split any that we don't have to because of one-man, one-vote requirements.
Okay. If a county has to split a precinct, would it be under your umbrella to suggest to the supervisors to add another precinct? Especially in the counties who have grown. I live in Lafayette. So that's the question I have.
We don't have any authority.
No authority. Okay. No suggestive authority. I never said. Okay. Another comment that I have is, from the maps, and I'm sure you are very much aware of this, or I feel like you are, that District 2, Congressional District 2 and Congressional District 3 are the two districts who have lost population, while District 1 and District 4 have gained substantial representation. And that's pretty much true.
Not 3. I think 3's going to be a lot closer, I think, too.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it's about 6,000, something like that. All right. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate each and every one of your work. I know Ben and y'all going to be relying on him quite a bit as far as crunching the numbers. And people need to understand that the numbers are not necessarily in total, but they also are split on racial boundaries and by precinct, which you have to deal with. And it's a number crunching game. It's not a big old box out there saying, well, this guy's white, this guy's black. Okay, it's not a name. You're a number. Mississippians need to realize that they are a number in this redistricting process. And I don't know how you could else do that. One other thing is, each of you have sworn to uphold the state constitution and the federal constitution. You have legal counsel. The legal counsel is going to guide you, and hopefully he doesn't make any mistakes. But that's what I see in the process, is 20 people sitting down and looking at some proposed numbers from a data to determine what the districts are. And we have much more computer processing now of numbers than we do. And I'm sorry to say that's what it is. It's numbers. It's not you going to be here and you going to be there. It's going to be a number. Again, my name is Jerry Pope. I'm a longtime Mississippian. I was born and raised here in this county, and I've moved about. So, again, I thank you.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Samuel Williams.
Good evening. First, I want to apologize for my appearance. I had to leave work and come here because I had to work. Okay. And with that in mind, I want to apologize. I would not have come before this body looking like this if that had not been absolutely necessary. And on my way down, I decided I better get something to eat. And for somehow, I waste a little bit of my food on me. So I'm here in full color, okay? And I want to thank you all for allowing us an opportunity to come out and do this. And I don't want it to sound like it's a beating up bash. I think a lot of people get a little excited, and I do too, because this is dear to me. My name again is Samuel Williams. I live in Desoto County, and I live in a great city called South Haven. Now, I've been a Mississippian all of my life, and that's been a few years, about 73 of them. Okay, and I'm a Mississippian. I was born and reared on the land that I live on. I am the third generation that lived there. And just give you a little history of me and what it is, how I see things working. When I was born there and on that same land 73 years ago, my address was Route 1, Box 123-8. No, correct it. Route 1, Box 123, Jago, Mississippi, which was an all-black town. That was in the 40s, 1947 to be exact. That was an all-black town. Then Horn Lake took it over. My address changed, Route 1, Box 123A, Horn Lake, Mississippi. Now, the land had moved. I now live at 4855 Sweeney Road, South Haven, Mississippi. And unless it moved since this morning, it's still there. So I have seen the effects of both parties in rule, because when I was coming up, it was Democrat. That's what it was. Republican was not going to get elected in Horn Lake and Jago. Then when South Haven took over in the 80s, 40 or something years ago, first it was a Democrat. Our mayor was a Democrat. First two mayors, Greg Davis and I can't remember the first one, they were all Democrats when they got elected. Years later, South Memphis moved to South Haven. South Memphis, South Tennessee. Correct, Whitehaven and South Memphis moved to South Haven, then returned Republican. Now a Democrat can't get elected. I've said all that to say this. I'm not so much concerned about who represent as long as I have an opportunity to choose and my vote be counted and be valuable. Because, you know, a vote can be counted, but I added valuable also. And that's what's happening in South Haven. And I'm here to make sure that, not to make sure, but to ask you all to make sure that the lines that you draw for the state legislator and the federal government does not devalue my vote. Please don't do that. That is not right. You know, I came up under, remember when I was a little boy, my grandmother used to go vote when they would allow her and the men in the neighborhood to vote. Both my grandfathers was dead when I was born, but both of my grandmothers was living. Landowners in Desoto County, in South Haven, on both sides of my family. We still own the land on both sides of my family. And I didn't know what they were doing because we were children, and they kept children in a segment. But they would ask them questions about how many bubbles in a bar of soap, how much they had to pay poll taxes. Now that is the same thing then that kept certain people from voting as gerrymandering. Now is packing, is when you're cracking the ward. That's the same thing. It was illegal then, and it's illegal now. So, and I'm not here to accuse you. My profession was a policeman. I was a Memphis policeman for 30-some years, so I don't want you to think that I'm accusing. But I've always laid my facts out. I've always had to plead my case if I'm going to get you. I couldn't just come and arrest you. I got to arrest you and then build my case. So that's what I'm doing right here to you all. If y'all allow me, just give me a little time. I'm going to build my case and bring it right home to you so that you can make an intelligent decision. And I know that we all love to do that. But now, when I first had something to do with South Haven was 2013, other than just voting. 2013, a very dear and close person of mine ran for an office there in South Haven. She lost. Another friend of mine ran for an alderman position. This particular woman that I started first, she ran for mayor. The other person was a male friend of mine, and he ran for alderman in Ward 6. Now, the reason we chose Ward 6 for him to run in, because Jago, I told you, was right there in South Haven. It's the heart of South Haven. At that time, it was 80 to 85% of South Haven was made up out of Jago, which was what? All black. Ward 6 was 85% of Jago. So Ward 6 was mostly all black. The gentleman lost. Then after that, we were looking at the numbers. Well, okay, and 4 years from now, we're going to be a force to reckon with. But you know what they done in South Haven before those next 4 years? They redistricted. That's right. I'm serious. The record will show it. I was in Ward 6 because I lived where? In Jago. They come and move me, and I know the young lady over there got her family, Gail, Lions Baptist, so we all know each other. They moved us out of District 6 and put us in District 2. Now, it's not enough of us in District 2 to make a difference, but there's not enough in District 6 anymore to make a difference. If they had not moved us purposely, we would have been able to, Pam would have probably been our alderman for Alderman 6. That's how important it is to us. That's what we're talking about here when we talk about I believe it was this gentleman here that talked about taxation, about representation. That's what we're talking about. If you all don't set the guidelines and say that this is the way that we want Mississippi to operate, the way that we are operating, and I'm talking in your person, that the way that we are operating, then the people down under you are not going to do it. They're going to follow suit. If you don't draw the lines properly and give everyone, every Mississippian, an opportunity to vote and be counted, and their vote to be valued, then no one under your umbrella can do it. That's just the truth. That's just the truth. And we are all, I'm looking at some of you all, most of y'all on that dais up there is juniors to me. Maybe one or two of us may have come along there together, but the most of y'all are junior to me. We want to know that one day someone can be sitting up there looks like us. That's juniors to us, but has our values and concern. Now, the only way that's going to happen is that you take our concerns and take them and be sincere about it. I don't want to belabor the thing. I just want to tell you what we need. What we need is fairness. What we need is one man, one woman, one vote that's valued. What we need is the districts to be drawn properly so that we won't be discarded. That's what we need. What we're asking for is just what we need. That's what we're asking for. And we're not trying to, no one has come up to this mic, and I know I haven't, and said, if you don't do this, then we're going to do that. No, you know what we're going to do? We're going to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. Unless I die, I'll be at the next one that you're doing. Now, if I die, I won't be here. But if I don't die, I'll be back. I mean, I'm just being honest about it, because that's how we're tired of it. We need some relief, you all, please. And you all have to have the hands to do it. You are the only ones that I know that can do it. I lived in those 3 cities, and I never moved. Can you imagine that? 3 cities. I'm a 3rd generation. I got a daughter that did live there. She got married now. She was the 4th generation there. And I don't plan us to ever leave the land. All I want you to do is do this. Build a community with not by where votes for Republicans or votes for Democrats or votes for blacks. I happen to be black. I bet y'all didn't know that. But I happen to be black. I happen to be a male. I happen to vote Democrat sometime. I have voted Republican. Yes, I have. But this is what I want you all to take in consideration. Say, that young man, well, that man that was standing before me, he talked to me sincere. And I'm serious about what I'm saying. I say it in a funny way, but I am serious. Let's do the thing right. Let's just show the rest of the world that Mississippi ain't what it used to be. I call it, when the folks ask me where you live at, I say the great state of Mississippi. Give me 2 more minutes and I'm going to sit down. The great state of Mississippi. I would love to be able to say one day that I talked to a body of people that heard my cry. That heard my cry. That's all I'm asking, is righteousness. All I'm asking is fairness. When you go back to the board and get with the other members and let's try to vote it this way. And you know what? I'm a firm believer, and I have to believe in something, because if you're a black man in America, you have to believe in some higher power. And I believe in that higher power. It took me a long way. I told you I was a Memphis policeman. It took me all the way through the Memphis Police Department, 30-some years. It took me into the military. I'm a Navy man also. It took me through high school. You know, speaking of high school, when I graduated from high school in the great school of Hernando Central High School in 1967, integrated, it was 6 schools in Desoto County. We had 3 white and 3 black. So we had 3 black principals at that time. Today, I'm not sure the number, but I know it's over 40. And we still don't have but 3 black principals. Now, does that not say something? And you think about, I've been paying taxes since, well, no, I didn't start in 1947. My grandmother was paying taxes on both sides of my family since 1947. My mother, my father, and we still can't get representation. The gamut is in your hand. The baton is being passed in your hand. Now, what you do with that baton is what you're going to have to give account of. See, I've done my job. I've come to you, laid it out to you, explained to you why we are here. Now, if you just let my words fall upon your deaf ears, that's not on me, brothers and sisters. And I call you brother and sister, and that's what I mean about it. It's not on me, it's on you. Please do the right thing. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mark Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Appreciate your service. We've seen the salary of legislators, so I know it's a labor of love for you guys to travel all over the state and do this, and we appreciate your service. Mr. Booth, good to see you again, and appreciate Dr. Heindel hosting. He was here a minute ago. I know you're not here to discuss county and city redistricting, although there's been a lot of conversation about that. I want to state as a DeSoto County supervisor that that process is very open to the public, and our agendas are published on our website and on our Facebook page, and anybody can come and give us input. In fact, we welcome it, and I'm sure in the mayors and board of aldermen, when they do their redistricting meetings for the city wards, would welcome input on that as well. My questions, and I really don't have a prepared speech, I just had a few questions. I know that our goal would be to have this process done before the 2023 state and county elections again, and the qualifying starts for that in January of 2023. Of course, you know, the Census Bureau has been delaying getting us the data, and as I understand, y'all still don't have that data in hand, but the process we use is block data, how many people, and we understand. And I'm looking at your map, and I found this interesting. There's 3 counties in blue, which indicated greater than 12% growth based on census estimates, and DeSoto County has 14%. So I know that some of those districts will get smaller because of the population of people in those districts. So I guess my question more specifically to y'all is that the time frames that y'all are working towards the 2023 Senate, House, gubernatorial, county supervisor elections, or do y'all have different deadlines?
Well, you know, we're here to hear comments, but I can just tell you that we're going to have redistricting done in the next session in 2022.
Okay, and where can the public, everyone has spoken, where can we track the deliberations of this committee? Will it be on the legislative website as we say? I mean, one thing obviously we're interested in, a lot of these folks that have spoken is, you know, I feel certain with the growth in DeSoto County we're going to have more representative and Senate, possibly Senate seats that people would be eligible to run for out of DeSoto County. How would we track that progress?
Legislative website.
Legislative website. Okay. Thank y'all very much for coming to North Mississippi.
Okay. Mr. John Eubanks.
I too came from work. My name is John Eubanks. I am a minority person. I'm white and I'm a Republican. And I am a member of the executive committee of the Tate County Republican Club. And I can tell you that it is the goal of the Republican Party to make it inclusive, and that we are at a state level trying to make our club inclusive. But it appears to me that you guys have an impossible task, because most of the comments we've heard tonight talk about the fact of misrepresentation, but for most of my adult life, the civil rights movement in this country has strove to integrate us as communities, and we are. And so we're salt and pepper communities, and you guys are going to be drawing your guidelines along community lines, not racial lines. And I don't know how you're going to do that. I can tell you on behalf of Republicans in Tate County, we already share a Senate seat with an adjoining county, and it's not our desire that you further split Tate County. And it is my desire that, as many people have expressed, that we're able to stay wired to your decisions and the progress this makes. But it's my understanding, is it not, that redistricting will not occur unless it passes both the House and the Senate? Once you've drawn the lines, you've got to vote on it. And so each of us have a representative and a senator that we can influence directly as to how we feel about whether or not that passes, or will this be done basically without input from the public once you have drawn the lines? Okay, so we still have a voice. Each of us have a voice, and it is my prayer that you guys are able to figure out a way to do this, because frankly, I think this is a conundrum, and I don't know how you're going to do it. And I know that you're going to make a lot of people unhappy, and you're going to make some people happier. But I thank you for coming, and on behalf of the Republican Party in Tate County, we appreciate you being here.
All right, I want to thank all of y'all for your comments, and remind you that if you have any material that you haven't given us, well, you can either do it tonight, or you can send it to the addresses I'm going to give you. I want to thank our host again for providing this space, this wonderful room to have something like this in. Thank y'all for coming. Thank our staff for their efforts and making sure that people across the state can see this, and that there's a record of your comments made, that they're doing that. And I want to remind the public that we're just in the beginning. I'll give you opportunity. We're just beginning this process, and we're listening to the comments, suggestions that have been made, and proud to give you all that opportunity. Now, do I have any other members?
This was found in a chair in the back of the room.
Oh, okay. I have what appears to be a large sum of money that someone left in a chair. It's got a name on it, I believe. We do have a name on it, so don't come up here and claim it if it wasn't yours now.
Jesse Edwards.
Jesse Edwards. Is he still here? Oh, no. What?
Write your name down or something so that we'll know who we gave it.
All right. Thank you for that. Sister Brown, I know you had something you wanted to say, so.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say to the people that spoke and those who attended, thank you for coming out and thank you for speaking to us. The reason we come and have these hearings, the reason we go about the state is to learn more about the various areas of the state. And all of us have learned something. I didn't know about Jago. I didn't know that Lewisburg was so upset with the people in Hernando. I don't know what the folks in Hernando did, but I understand it. Whatever it was a terrible thing. But I mean, in all seriousness, this is why we come to have the hearings. We listen to people who tell us things which are inconsistent. One person wants X, one person wants not X. So obviously, when you look at the map, everybody's not going to be happy with everything. But we have listened to what you said. Our colleagues who are listening on YouTube or wherever it is are also listening, and it's been worthwhile for us to come hear what you had to say. I hope it's been worthwhile for y'all to come here and talk to us, and thank you for coming out and participating.
Thank you, Senator Bryan. Is there anyone else have anything they want to say? All right. Once again, I want to remind you, if you have any additional comments, suggestions, or anything else you want to send us, please send it to Ted Booth, Staff Counsel, Joint Reapportionment Committee, P.O. Box 1204, Jackson, Mississippi 39215-1204, or you can email ted.booth@peer.ms.gov. And with that, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.